Well, good news for Australian wine manufacturers today. Not good news for consumers. We want to keep it here for ourselves, as the government announced that China has chosen to review its sanctions on Australian wine. Here was Anthony Albanese today.
This is a very significant decision because, unlike some of the other products, the wine industry have indicated they were having difficulty finding other markets to fill. A win-win. Australia gets to export our wine. Importantly, China gets to receive this amazing product.
Now, Steve, you enjoy a good drop of Australian red. I
don't think he knows any more about wine than he did about the referendum. Why would it be hard to sell Australian wine to other markets? Look, I know the Australian winemakers. The problem was China's such a massive market.
Correct.
And so we were pumping, you know, shiploads of the loads of stuff into Beijing, and the winemakers were having a great old time of it. And they got I think they got too comfortable with having that open market in China, and when the rug got pulled, they suddenly were in financial trouble. Now, I mean, Anthony Albanese, he's off to see Joe Biden, right? Yep. He's on the plane now. Then he comes back. Then he's going back to America for APEC. Then he comes back, then he's going to China. I mean, the old Airbus Alba, I mean, seriously.
That's good.
Why is it good?
Because America is the only thing protecting us from China. Like, we have to make sure that we have good relations. The country that is a superpower.
We can't afford to buy our own wine because of the cost of living. We're on casks, Joe. We're back on the cask line.
I've been able to cut back on absolutely everything else.
Steve. We're not getting on the cask. We can't. The cask, we're both South Aussie boys. The cask was a South Australian invention.
Correct.
I don't want to own that, but it is. But Caroline, it's funny, Joe says, oh, you know, the US is protecting us from China. When these tariffs all came in, particularly wine and barley, whatever,
crayfish.
You know the countries that benefited the most from that? The US, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, all of our allies saw their exports into China go through the roof. And at no point did they pick up the phone, or at least in a public way, and say, thank you so much for being the first people to ask about the origins of COVID. We know you've taken the fall here. You've made us a lot of money.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of hypocrisy, isn't there? People, I mean, countries are scared of China. That's why they tiptoed around the origins of COVID for so long and are still tiptoeing around it. And didn't confront China enough about it, and tried to say that the most obvious theories about a lab leak were conspiracies.
What I used to love was the fact that, you know, they wouldn't take our crayfish, wouldn't take our wine and cheese and all that stuff. But they were very happy to take shiploads of iron ore.
That's right.
Yeah. Day after day after day.
Apparently they're selling yabbies.
Steve, you don't understand. It wasn't a boycott. It wasn't a boycott. They just didn't have the right paperwork. Yeah. The guy on the ship just hadn't filled out the forms correctly. But the guy filling out the forms for the iron ore, that guy, he's one hell of an administrator.
Yeah, and COVID started from bats.
But we can't forget, Evelyn, like, it's great. We want Australian wine and Australian products to be exported to China again, because it is a big market and they're a big trading partner. But we must never forget, when we're dealing with China, about things like Chile and things like where COVID came from, and that when we dared to ask that question, they cut us off, they cut off our exports. It is, even though it's a big trading partner, a communist country that, you know, treats its own people very poorly.
And there's still an Australian that is detained there, we shouldn't forget. Young Hengjun.
Correct.
Yeah. Where are the people also marching on the streets ahead of the China visit for the Uyghur people?
Well, and that's it.
People there.
We don't talk.
Or is it because China, there's no Jews in China?
Yeah, that's right.
We don't talk about that.
At the end of the day, we need to diversify our exports. Yep. And I think we need to focus on Commonwealth countries. And I think that's where our focus should be. I also agree with Joe. Again, can you believe it?
What's the date?
That we need to focus on our alliance with the US. We've been in a military alliance with them since 1951. It's very important. Why? Because China have built concrete islands north of the Philippines that could reach Australia. So I think the lesson or the takeaway from all of this is to not be hostile with China, but not be chummy with them. Exactly. And I think we need to be careful of that. And I think that Australians are sitting ducks when it comes to China, and China knows that.